Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 20, the rainy season and autumn, text 22. Sarasu Ashanta Rodhasu Nyusuhu Anga Api Sarasaha Griheshu Ashanta Krityeshu Gramyaha Iva Durashayaha Sarasvashantarodhasu Nyushur Angapi Sarasaha Griheshvashantakrityeshu Gramya Iva Durashayaha Sarasvashantarodhasu Nyusur Angapi Sarasaha Griheshvashantakrityeshu Gramya Iva Durashayaha Sarasvashantarodhasu Nyusur Angapi Sarasaha Griheshvashantakrityeshu Gramya Iva Durashayaha Surangapi Sarasaha Santakrityeshu Angapi Sarasaha Santakrityeshu Ramya Iva Durashayaha. Who wants to read it? Sarasvashantarodhasu Nyusurangapi Sarasaha Griheshvashantakrityeshu Ramya Iva Durashayaha. Mataji's. Tarodhasu Nyusurangapi Sarasaha Griheshvashantakrityeshu Gramya Iva Durashayaha. Sarasu upon the lakes, Ashanta disturbed, Rodhasu whose banks, Nyushuhu continued to dwell, Anga my dear king, Api indeed, Sarasaha, the cranes, Griheshu, in their homes, Ashanta, feverish, Krityeshu, where activities are performed, Gramyaha, materialistic men, Eva, indeed, Durashayaha, whose minds are contaminated. Translation and commentary by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The cranes continued dwelling on the shores of the lakes, although the shores were agitated during the rainy season, just as materialistic persons with contaminated minds always remain at home despite the many disturbances there. Purport. During the rainy season, there are often mudslides around the shores of lakes. The thorny bushes, stones, and other debris sometimes accumulate there. Despite all these inconveniences, ducks and cranes continue meandering around the lake shores. Similarly, innumerable painful occurrences are always disturbing family life, but a materialistic man never even considers leaving his family in the hands of his grown sons and going away for spiritual improvement. He regards such an idea as shocking and uncivilized because he is completely ignorant of the absolute truth and his relationship to that truth. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sarasvashanta Rodhasu Nyusur Angapi Sarasaha Griheshvasanta Krityeshu Gramya Ivadurashayaha. The cranes continued dwelling on the shores of the lakes, although the shores were agitated during the rainy season, just as materialistic persons with contaminated minds always remain at home despite the many disturbances there. So, it had a very interesting and striking analogy. Here, Shukadeva Goswami is explaining about how the cranes, he gives the analogy of the cranes dwelling on the shores of the lakes. If you have watched, sometimes you can see when there is, around the lake or when there is after rain, you can see there may be some pebbles, some stones, even there could be some thorns. So sometimes the cranes are stuck there, they don't move, they just stand there. Even you can sometimes see the ducks also. They just hang around that place. So that is being compared here to a materialistic person who, in spite of there are difficulties, in spite of there are so many problems, he still finds pleasure to stay in the family life or continue his endeavors to enjoy this material world along with his friends, relatives, thinking that this will make him happy. So that's the comparison that's given here. Yeah, in spite of many disturbances, he would like to continue his stay there. So we will just see the purport Srila Prabhupada is given in the light of the Bhagavata. I'll also read the translation what Srila Prabhupada has given. A crane stands on the edge of a pond that is always disturbed by flowing water, mud and stones. The crane is like a householder who is disturbed in the shelter of his home, but who, because of too much attachment, does not want to change his position. The forgetful householder life of the conditioned soul is a soul-killing dark well. This is the opinion of Sri Prahlad Maharaj, the celebrated devotee of the Lord. Too much attachment for hearth and home is never recommended by a self-realized soul. Therefore, the span of human life should be methodically divided. The first stage is called the Brahmacharya Ashrama, or the order of life in childhood, when the man to be trained in the ultimate goal of life. The man is to be trained in the ultimate goal of life. The next stage is the Grahastha Ashrama, in which the man is trained to enter into the transcendence. Then comes the Vanaprastha Ashrama, the preliminary stage of renounced life. The last stage recommended is the Sannyasa order, or the renounced order of life. In this way, one accepts a gradual process of spiritual activities for the ultimate goal of liberation. Unfortunately, for want of sufficient culture of the human spirit, no one wants to give up the householder life, even though it is full of pinpricks and mud. And those who are too attached amidst the pinpricks of muddy householder life are compared to the cranes that stand on the bank of the river for some sense enjoyment despite all the inconveniences there. We should always remember that the society, friendship, and love we are supposed to enjoy in family life are only shadowy representations of the real society, friendship, and love reciprocated in the kingdom of God. There is no reality in the conditioned life of material existence, but because of our ignorance, we are attached to the mirage. The idea of society, friendship, and love is not at all false, but the place where we search for it is false. We have to give up this false position and rise to the reality. That should be the aim of life, and that is the result of cultivating the human spirit. Unfortunately, for want of sufficient culture of the spirit, the materialistic man always sticks to this false place in spite of all its turmoils. It is said that a man should give up the order of householder life at the age of 50. But in this era of ignorance, even an old man wants to rejuvenate his bodily functions, put on artificial teeth, and make a pretense of youthful life. Even on the verge of death, crane-like politicians especially are too much attached to the false prestige of position and rank, and so they always seek re-election even at the fag end of life. These are some of the symptoms of an uncultured life. So here we see specifically Srila Prabhupada is pointing out about the householder who is forgetful of his eternal goal of life. He's comparing the householder who is too much attached to sense enjoyment as the theme that the Bhagavatam Prahlad Maharaj points out, that the material life is compared, specifically a householder life simply meant for satisfying one's senses and thinking this to be the reality, that is being compared to a dark well. Same thing Srila Prabhupada points out here in this purport. So, and Srila Prabhupada, he gives a solution how one can overcome this attachment to material life. So that's why there is a whole system. The 4 ashramas are designed to gradually control one's senses and mind and develop detachment. That's why the whole system of the varna and ashrama is there. Specifically, the ashramas are meant to take some endeavors, take some steps to know our goal of life and how we can mold our life. So the Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the 4 stages of the ashrams. So before getting into it, in this verse, there is this. We can see this verse. This word is often. It comes in several places in the Bhagavatam. Durashayaha. This word is being used. Gramya iva durashayaha. So I was just before coming for the class, looking at the word durashaya. How Srila Prabhupada has translated it in different places. So in one place he points out durashayaha. He means that he says that it's lustful desire. Asha means desire. Dur means bad. So bad desire, he refers to lustful desire. Another place he translates it as evil-mindedness. No? So whatever the activity that you do detrimental to the soul's progress, that's evil. Actually, that's not good. It could even harm others, because you are harming yourself and you are harming others. Evil-mindedness. And another place he points out that it is mean-mindedness, he says. Mean-mindedness means, then naturally when you do not know what's your goal of life, what is the purpose of life, and who you are, what is the relationship with God, and what is your actual identity, then you may think this body to be all in all. We are this body, then we have this conception, and the immediate expansions of the body, we think we give so much importance for that, or we think that is the goal of life, to satisfy our body and satisfy the immediate expansions of the body. And then in that process you become very mean, you become very selfish, you become greedy, you become lustful, and it creates a lot of trouble. In another place, Prabhupada translates it as ambitions to enjoy the material world. So naturally, when you don't have when you do not know the difference between spirit and matter, and the controller of the spirit and matter, and our eternal relationship with the controller of spirit and matter, then definitely you're going to have so many different kinds of ambitions, and all those ambitions are meant to satisfy your senses and try to enjoy this material world. So Prabhupada makes the point that one makes several plans for that, to enjoy this material world. And then in this particular verse, the translation is contaminated mind. The mind becomes contaminated when your desire, from the mind the desires are arising. So then when you don't have proper desires, then it becomes contaminated, and then you lose the track. Then your goal of life is to accumulate more and more wealth, and try to enjoy the senses, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apahurta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhau na vidiyate. So one cannot remain peaceful, one is always agitated. The mind becomes contaminated, and it goes for several things to enjoy, and as a result you are always agitated. So this is the effect of durashaya. And in another place, it is the translation is given, stubbornly hoped for material enjoyment. You become very stubborn in that endeavor. Even with good advice, because you have become blinded, you are not able to see what is really good for you, what is in store for you, and you are just more and more clinging on to your ideas. And that is giving you a self-destruction. You are actually killing the soul, killing yourself. Atmaha, this word is also used in the Bhagavatam. So that's the point. So right from young age, this training is required to become detached from matter. So that's why the four ashramas are there. So the first ashrama, the brahmacharya principle, is the training. In Narada Muni gives instruction that brahmachari gurukule vasan dhanto guror hitam acharan dasavad nicho guru suhrida saurdaha. So he explains that. So right from young age, a training has been given in the brahmacharya ashram. The main principle is to control one's mind and senses. And he is also trained to become a menial servant of the Guru. And in a very friendly and a very submissive and a favorable way, he tries to satisfy the desires of the spiritual master, and he stays in his place. And in that way, he learns to control his senses, control his mind, and the result of it is that naturally one develops detachment to matter, and by the positive engagement in the service of the Lord, he develops attachment to Krishna and his devotees. So, to develop detachment in the material world is very difficult. It's not so easy, it's really difficult, because from time immemorial we are trying to enjoy our senses with this conditioned mind. We have been trying to lord over material nature. So naturally our mind and senses are pulling us to enjoy various sense gratificatory pursuits. So a training is required, a clear program is required, a positive engagement is required, so that we can engage the mind in a proper way, by which we can. So the proper way of engagement is to satisfy the senses of the Lord. The Lord is called as the Rishika Isha. We have to satisfy the senses of the Lord, and by trying to satisfy the senses of the Lord, our senses and our mind will get pacified, or it will actually be, we will be able to relish happiness, because that's the constitutional position of the soul. So that is right from young age this training is given. So why the student comes to the ashram and then he stays and he gets a training, so he learns this material world is temporary, we are eternal souls, we are meant to please Krishna. That's our relationship, our Sambandha Jnana is invoked, and then what is the process, the Abhidaya, the process of engagement in devotional service is given practical training in that, and then one also get to know the goal of life, to develop love of God. So a systematic training is given. So in brahmachari life, he gets this training, and then the guru decides to, based on the proclivities, based on his propensities, he's being encouraged. So he may get into the next ashram, the grahastha ashrama. So you can see in this is called as ashrama. That means you take some steps to control your mind and senses. It's not that you just lavishly lead your life simply trying to satisfy your senses. You take steps to control your mind and senses, and there are ways by which you do to control your mind and senses. So guidance is given. The Vedas are giving us guidance. The Guru is giving us guidance according to the scriptures. So that we see. And then, then after being trained in the Grahastha ashram, so he is also engaged in various activities, engaged in yajna, is engaged in charity. At the same time, he is also responsible. He knows the responsibility that he has taken, and in spite of so many different responsibilities he also engages in the service of the Lord, keeping in mind the goal of life. And then the scripture says, Panchoshordvam Manam Brajit. At the age of 50, he takes to the path of detachment. And then after being trained in the Vanaprastha ashram, then he takes to sannyas. So the whole idea of this program is to gradually develop detachment from the material world. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out here. So this system, Srila Prabhupada writes very nicely. He says that in the Grahastha ashram, a man is trained to enter into the transcendence. So generally we think that, one gets married, then he has so much of, luxury and so much of enjoyment and all these things. But actually, in the marriage life also, one gets married, but he has been given the instruction, he has been trained, he has been guided that we should never lose focus of serving the Lord. So with the family, with the children, one engages in the service of the Lord. That's very important. So, and Prabhupada points out that what's the problem in the modern day life? There is complete lack of training. Nobody knows about this. So they think that the goal of life is to simply satisfy the senses, just accumulate as much wealth as possible, try to enjoy in various ways. So as a result, one thinks that this temporary world, this temporary relationships, he thinks that to be the reality. So, but we know that this material world is not real. Material world is real, but it is temporary. But what happens when we don't have proper knowledge, when we don't have proper understanding, we take our temporary relationships to be real, and then we get caught into it. We get into so much anxiety. We get into so much. Then there is depression and so many problems we see in this material world, because there is lack of training in the knowledge of transcendence. We also see from the Bhagavatam the examples of great personalities, how they have been trained, how they have been guided by the sadhus about the reality of life. We can see in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, where Chitraketu, the story of Chitraketu, it's very nicely explained how he wanted a son, and so he was somehow by the mercy of Angira Rishi and Narada Muni, so he was blessed to have a son, but he was advised that soon the son will die, but he didn't realize that what will be the effect of it. But then when he experienced that, within very few days after the son was born, he died, and he became so morose. It was the attachment was very much. He was very much painful. He couldn't tolerate. He and his wife could not. Kritadyuti and Chitraketu could not tolerate it, and they started blaming God. They started blaming, why such a thing happened to me. So then you can see there is profound instructions given by Angira Rishi and Narada Muni, how about the nature of the material world, how the relationships are temporary. The famous example is, this example is also given again and again, that how there are some dust particles, or the sawdust that comes together, and then with the passing of the water, again it moves. So the explanation is given that the relationships in this material world, because we get into different bodies, we develop different relationships, but those relationships are not eternal. They are temporary relationships. We need to understand that. At least we have theoretical knowledge of this. When we face in our life our near and dear ones, when they leave us, or when we leave us, then the reality could be understood. Okay, this is the nature of the material world. We have to live with this. But when people don't absolutely have any knowledge of this, then they can't bear it. They get into trauma, they get into depression. People for months and months, they suffer. So, because of lack of training. So this is one section the Bhagavatam very nicely explains about the temporary nature of the material world. So then, Narada Muni advises Chitraketu to engage in the service of the Lord. And another very powerful section in the Bhagavatam which speaks about detachment. In fact, this is a section where Vidura, he gives instruction to Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra was such an attached householder. So Dhritarashtra points out that you are not able to realize that every one of us are going to die, that death is going to be very soon. And you are still hanging on to your body. You are already, you can see the very strong words that he uses to shake him, to bring him to reality, that already your teeth is shaking. You are not, already you are blind, but now you are not able to hear also. You have become a deaf. You have become old, you have become invalid. But then still, just remember, just think about it, what you have done to your relatives. For the Pandavas, what did you try to kill them? You try to, Draupadi was disrobed, you are part of that plan. All these things you did, and now you are right royally staying in their house. And you are without any shame. And then he says that it is something like your dog staying, and you are taking the food that is given by them. You don't feel ashamed. But rather, so he goes on to point out that this is time for you. You need to, anybody who is sober, who is intelligent, will understand the temporary nature of this material world. He will understand that the reality is not here. So this material world, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Urdhva Moolam Adashakam. So that means this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. The reality is out there. But here actually there is no reality. It's just a shadow. So you are trying to enjoy the shadow. You are trying to find pleasure in the reflection. But you can't get the pleasure here. So he gives very strong advice. He makes the point. Yeah. Yeah, so he gives the example of how an attached householder, he suffers in this material world because of lack of knowledge. So then finally, Vidura, after giving such a strong advice, he encourages him to renounce. It's time for you to search for self-realization. So positions, they don't want to give the responsibility to hand over to their children or to their relatives and gradually take to serious steps in the spiritual life. So this is very important. We can see that's the problem, because you don't have training. We can see people who are sometimes they are 60 years, 63 years, still they are the kind of directors in the company, and they're very proud of it. Some of them, they spend their time playing golf. You can see hours together. The West, you can see so many people who are 65, 70, they spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours playing golf. Some of them, they are very much interested in working on stock market. They do so much analysis, they have experience, and they still continue to give advice. We can see some of them, they have the passion for medicine, they have the passion for some particular subject, and they just continue to do more research on that. They try to give advice, they take seminars. They are not able to walk also with great difficulty. They go and then spend all their energy into it. But they don't understand that whatever knowledge that they have acquired, whatever talents they have, all those things will be finished by giving up this body. They may not be able to carry over anything with them. But they are just investing all their energies into something which is futile, which is not really going to give them eternal benefit. So Srila Prabhupada points out in this purport also, he points out that the person has become so old, and he's still trying to fix their body. Fix their body means they're trying to go to the dentist. They spend time to fix their teeth so that it looks really good. Some people, they continue to perform plastic surgeries. The famous Elizabeth Taylor, who even in such an old age, she went on doing plastic surgery to keep herself beautiful. This is because of lack of knowledge, because of ignorance. People also, now you can even see in the internet, there are so many people who try to, because they do not know that they are not this body, they think, can we live forever? That means that, can I be in this body? Can I just retain this body forever? So they are trying so much steps. So there is also a technology called cryonics. Cryonics means that they want to preserve. They pay a huge amount of money, some lakhs and lakhs. And I think in the US there is only one place where they have the facility that the body can be preserved. So they think that they could, even when they become old, they become invalid. They think they just book so that their body can be placed. And then the doctors or scientists are giving an assurance that we will revive you in this body. You can be hale and healthy. We will try to bring you back in this body. So these foolish ideas, because of lack of knowledge, so these foolish, they're endeavoring so much to be happy in the temporary body. But that's foolishness. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. So there are also people who are engaged in, what other things they waste their time. They when they become old, they can, use their, even whatever, they may not be physically, they may not be so much fit, but still whatever energy and time they have, if the scriptures, as the Shastras explains that, Pancha Shordvam Manam Vrajet. So in these modern days, it is very difficult. Those days, there were people really left, they went to the forest. But now, there is a great opportunity. You can go to the temple, specifically for practicing devotees. They can come to the temple. They can engage in service, whatever service they can do. They need not do heavy physical service. They can meet people. They can explain about Krishna. They can, over the phone, talk to so many people, engage them in Krishna's service. They themselves can spend more time reading about the scriptures, reading Gita, Bhagavatam, chant more rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and inspire other youngsters. They can tell from their experience of their life what they have gone through. They can tell about the reality of life. They can encourage others, give them good advice, and set an example for others to take up the spirit of renunciation. So in that way, spend as much as energy as possible to remember Krishna, to chant Krishna, to engage in service. So in this way, one can mold his life so that you don't get into too much engrossed into various nitty-gritties of the family life. So that we have to gradually give the responsibility to youngsters to take a responsibility. So that's the whole point Srila Prabhupada is giving here. Because lack of knowledge and lack of proper understanding, we are trying to cling on more and more, get entangled into this material life. Srila Prabhupada also points out in this purport that we know about the politicians. We can see the parampara. The father is a politician, father is a minister, the grandfather is a minister, son is a minister, and his son also wants to retain as a minister. They will, till the last minute, till they die, they want to rule. And what will happen to them? What will be their next birth? Very unfortunate situation. Who knows what will be their next situation? Srila Prabhupada pointed out that one astrologer said that one of the ex-prime ministers of India, he was born as a dog, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, he said he was born as a dog because there was no proper spiritual understanding. He was so much attached to various kinds of material endeavors, attachment to various material pursuits. So this will be the result of it. So one has to learn from the scriptures, one has to learn from the sadhus, one has to practice and take up to this Krishna consciousness very seriously. So in this way, one will be able to really make this human form of life the best, in the best way, best use of the bad bargain. This body that we have got is not the, we have so many difficulties. Shariram Vyadi Mandiram. This body is, we get, although one may have the ideas of always trying to enjoy with this body, but we can see often we get so many problems with the health, so many issues. But still, whatever time period that we have, we should use our energy. In one of the lectures, Srila Prabhupada points out that he says that I never like to be lazy. Always use your time in a very effective way. Do something for Krishna. You can always engage in so many different kinds of activities for which idle mind is devil's workshop. We need to be very careful. So we should not waste our time. Some people who sit in the house and then they just watch some serials, some of them are even now where they become very old, they watch cricket match, they do analysis. So they see the running commentaries. For what? I just remember one of my relative. Previously, you used to have the smartphone and all these things. Even some of the houses, television was not so common. I mean, maybe in a locality, you may have 2 TVs or something like that. But there also used to be the old radios where you can connect to with the aerial. You can connect to some channels which is out of India, some Australian Broadcasting Corporation or something. I know one of my relatives, he's almost 75 years old, but he was so serious, he will somehow or other, when the matches happen in Australia, he will somehow or other get the help of someone. He will not even be able to turn this thing, these buttons, move it. He was so weak, but he was spending his energy to hear the early morning match, what happened, what is the score, and then he will discuss. And then he sometimes used to call us, hey, what's the score? So we were in ignorance also. We were used to seriously discuss with him. But then after he died, after we came in touch with ISKCON and Krishna consciousness, we thought that, oh my God, this person could have used all his time and energy, so much time and energy. He was a pious man, but still this kind of a very clear teachings and sharp knowledge that Srila Prabhupada gives, it brings a person to awareness, how we are wasting our human form of life. So there are so many people like that who are just wasting their time. So the analogy is very apt here, that in spite of so many difficulties, this crane is not moving from its position. It just wants to be there. So similarly, one who is unaware of the difficulties of this material life, so one will just get stuck, and then he will just misuse the human form of life. There is also another example, which is a very apt example. That is, I'm not sure this is from Mahabharata or from where, a person who is being chased by a tiger. He runs very fast, and then he just to escape, he just comes across a well which is covered by grass, and then to escape from the tiger, he hides. He just holds to a branch of the tree, and then he hides, and then he just moves himself a little bit under the well, and then when he looks down, he sees that there are two cobras, which is, he could see that if he is going to a little bit fall down, he's going to be killed by the cobra. And then he just also sees that there are two rats, white rat and a black rat, trying to gradually nibble their branches. And then on top, he sees there is a honeycomb, and also there are sometimes bees are moving around, but still there is a drop of honey that's coming. And outside, the tiger, anytime if he wants to escape, it might eat him. So it explains that the tiger is compared to the death. The snakes are compared to the different kinds of difficulties one will undergo, and then the three modes of material nature. The honeybees can bite him in spite of all these difficulties. And then this white rat and the black rat is compared to the day and night. So every day and night, as the Bhagavatam explains, Ayuhu harati vai pungsang udhyan astang chayanasho tasyarte yakshano nita uttama shloka vartaya. So every day there is a rising of the sun and the setting of the sun. Our lifespan is gone. One day is gone. And then in spite of all these difficulties, there is a drop of honey that's coming, and then he's trying to put his tongue and try to enjoy. So we have actually it's being so much being projected that life is for enjoyment. Yeah, we can enjoy. But actually we are being cheated. We are being cheated by everyone. We are being cheated by the politicians. We are being cheated by the industrialists. Being cheated by the sports persons. We are being cheated by all kinds of people who have no idea about the reality of life. The real goal of life is to engage in the service of the Lord, chant His names, and be blissful in the practice of Krishna consciousness. So to come out of the cheating, we need to take shelter of the sadhus, the scriptures, the holy name, and in this way we can really come to the light from the darkness. So that we can see here with so many different kinds of analogies. So these points are being driven, and we can see in the last 3 or 4 verses, specifically this point is being driven, that how the false ego covers a person's constitutional position as the eternal servant of God, and as a result of that, he identifies himself with the body, expansions of the body, and he thinks that to be the reality. And so far, by taking the right instructions, we can overcome this conditioning. Hare Krishna, we'll stop here. If you have any questions or comments, any realizations? Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.